We have received a lot more information in the Friday FAQ about the huge update that's coming later this month to Tacticus. Today we'll try and make sense of all the new information and also discuss some of the community feedback from my last video. Coming quickly after the huge announcement from Snowprint, the developers of Tacticus, that we are going to see sweeping changes in the game that will revolutionize everything around the endgame, we have received what is probably the largest FAQ there's ever been, as we got a whole host of information about the upcoming changes. As it was an amazingly large FAQ, I wanted to try and categorize and go through it similar to my video on the huge announcement that you can find linked above. It's really worth a watch if you haven't seen the news yet, as it tries to go through it as succinctly as possible. So for today, we will try to look at any new news about Mythic Rarity, Adamantine Tier, Mythic Items, Relic System, economy changes, and then any new information that doesn't quite fit into any of these categories. Just to give you a fair notice, most of the FAQ covered economy changes, so expect that to be the biggest category this video. I'll finish today with my thoughts on this new information, as well as talking a little bit about all your feedback on my last video. So without further ado, let's dive in. Starting with the Mythic Rarity, we've learned that Machines of War are also going to be updated. When they ascend to Mythic, they're going to get a brand new battle-wide Mythic ability, and this will provide buffs to friendly Mythic units specifically, or sometimes debuffs to enemies, which is all rather interesting. The important part about this is that it's a free passive ability, so it's not going to use up your ammunition for it. Overall, I've always struggled to enjoy the Machines of War because they've slowed down the game a little bit for me, but I'm very curious to see how this changes the game. It does feel like we're making Mythic teams even more powerful, which is just crazy. I can't even begin to imagine yet how powerful, but I'm really looking forward to finding out. For the Adamantium tier or Mythic items, there's no new information, so we're just going to jump straight to the Relic System. With the Relic System, we've finally seen a couple of practical examples. If you remember, the relics will be slotted into one of your equipment slots, and we already knew that they would be specific for a character, or just generally for a bunch of characters. The character-specific example is a weapon called the Ardent Blade, and this can only be used by Celestine, and it lets Celestine resurrect her Gemini Superior once per turn when she's defeated an enemy, or if she can't resurrect them, then it will let one of them take another action. And that's a really thematic addition to Celestine without being too insanely powerful. It'll be quite nice for legendary events though, as it's going to keep her spawns going and going. For the general relic, we learned about a crit booster called the Book of Fate, and this can be used by Archimatos, Abraxas, and Thaumachus, and it lets a friendly adjacent summon attack again when the relic bearer attacks, and if it's a demon, then it does a bit more damage. And again, I don't feel like this is crazy overpowered, but it feels like a step up for these characters and will allow you to go down a route where you specialize in demon spawning. One other little note here is that relics are going to lose their passive effects when they're downscaled in different modes. So for example, if you play in a tournament arena at gold level, your Celestine won't do all the extra stuff, basically keeping mythic abilities out of harm's way of newer players. I really like this change, and that was definitely one of the parts that came up a few times in your comments around the update as a whole. Then there was a ton of new economy information shared with us. The first big point I want to really highlight was that the developers recommend we hold onto our requisition scrolls and shop currency and to basically save up for a couple of weeks until we get our hands on the updates. I think this is a really important piece of information for us, so I'll definitely be holding on to most of my stuff until the next patch. The next really important point is that it's not just going to be affecting our characters that are already legendary. In fact, it's going to be affecting us across the board. Some of the new stuff mentioned is that the character shard acquisition is going to be better and we'll have more control over which shards we want to buy. And again, that is definitely something that a lot of you have been asking about in my comments. You have specific needs and you want to fill those needs, and hopefully we're going to be able to do that. Then on top of that, badges are going to be more plentiful. Leveling up your legendary abilities is going to be a lot more easier, and generally bringing a character up to legendary is going to be a lot easier, although we already knew that last part. Then your account level as a whole is also going to be easier to level up, which practically means that you're actually going to have more access to energy earlier, because every time you level up your account, you get a little bit more daily energy. And then the other thing with this is if you're lucky, the changes might even make you level up as soon as you log on to the new patch when it's released. For the rest of the economy changes, let them split me up into their different parts. For badges, we're going to get 4 times as much from Onslaughts. No talk yet about any refunds for those of us that have finished the Onslaughts tracks though. I still hope we get something there. You are also going to be able to buy them anytime in the Guild Wars shop, which will be a good use of your credits you've probably been saving up since Guild Wars started if you're an older player. Even better is that some of them are going to be the same draft style offers that you see in the Battle Pass, where you can pick your specific alliance to get a badge from, and that's really nice. Also, Mythic badges have been confirmed to drop from Onslaughts after level 80, or LXXX as it's called in game, and they say that there's even more changes coming as well as all of this. Regarding XP books, we found out that although XP books have been removed from the Rogue Trader shop, they are being found in a lot more places. The FAQ doesn't call out whether we'll be getting more per week or not exactly, but I would presume based on everything else that's coming that we will be. We also found out that the Mythic XP book gives 5 times the amount of XP that the Codex of War XP books gives currently. So that's a beast of a book and will definitely speed up your leveling. Then finally, for raid tickets, they just say that there's no change here and they're going to remain as they are for the moment. Just before I get onto my thoughts about all of this, I wanted to add another new section here all about how modes are changing, because we're going to see a bunch of new changes related to Mythic tiers specifically. First, we got it confirmed that we're going to come face to face with our first Mythic Guild Raid boss in Season 82, which is a little bit away as we're just started Season 79 currently. Thankfully, it's going to be Tervagon, one of the easier bosses to face, so I'm looking forward to battering that monster already. For the Extremist campaign, the end of the campaign will be changed to Mythic, so that is levels 23 to 30, and considering that it already takes a D2 set of champions to beat some of those levels, I'm looking forward to seeing how badly I get battered now. Thankfully, they are going to reset any battles that you've completed here for the various campaigns where they give away Mythic shards. So it means that those of you that have completed some of these missions are not losing out there. Incursions, which is the mode where you collect Machine of War shards, now have a new Mythic tier at the top as well. But the most important change here for me is that 4 extra battles have been added to the Legendary Character Release event tracks. We saw that there was already 2 extra battles being added recently, but another 4 is going to make it so awesome to try and beat. One thing about this is that it might actually make Legendary event releases easier for some of us, and it's because of all these new points that you're going to be able to get from these extra 4 battles. If you manage to complete them, you might not need to complete some of the harder battles in other stages. So for example, you might only need to get some of them to level 6 rather than level 8 or 10. And that's going to be great if I don't need to level up my Shadow Sun and Dark Strider like I am right now. It does mean that you might really want to consider pushing some of the most powerful legendary event characters all the way to Mythic though. So here I'm talking about Revas and Aleph Null, Maladus and Rotbone, Tangida and Actis, or Tyrant Guard, Jane Zarin and Syzus. Either way, I'm really happy to hear about that, and I'm definitely going to be trying to beat it as soon as they're added to the next event. Overall, what do I think about all this new information? I think it sounds like they've really answered a lot of the concerns players have been asking for, especially with those economy changes, and it really goes to show that this is just an insanely large patch that's coming. I have no idea how I'm meant to cover all of this in a patch update video, but I'll try my best when it arrives. I did say in my last video, all of these changes are making sense to me as a player, and I'm excited to get my hands on the patch already. I know some of you might be wondering why I'm being so positive, and I want to talk a little bit about that, and at the same time cover a lot of your thoughts on the changes from my comments in the last video, which I have to say have been really really thoughtful, considerate, and so in-depth. I feel you covered all the different angles and concerns there were possible. One of the biggest problems that was raised was the fact that this update is really hurting some of you because you feel it's moving the goalposts further away from you. I shared my personal feelings on this in the comments a little bit, because the way I see it for me is that the end game is having all my characters maxed out, and right now that's going to take me 7 to 10 years to do with the game as it is, and it just gets longer with every new character release. So I came to peace with that feeling a long time ago, and I just accepted that we're always going to have an infinite to-do list in the game, and that's something I'm okay with, and it helped me then refocus myself onto much shorter term goals and hitting those dopamines much quicker. I talk a lot about that in my beginner video that shows you who to level first, as this is a game all about reaching the next goal, but they have to be reasonable goals. If you set yourself the goal of being the number one player in the game, I feel 99.9% of us are setting ourselves up to absolutely fail. A better goal would be looking at how you can help your guild move up a place in guild raids or guild wars. Or maybe it's getting your characters' levels high enough to be able to clear out all the current static campaigns that there are, which in turn will help you open more characters by grinding shards. There's so many tiny goals that you can set up for yourself that will really help you to enjoy the game a lot more. For me, I've always had the goal of making sure I can open every legendary character and then seeing how far I can maximize each legendary event. On top of that, I just got my Genestealer's Cult leveled up to the highest level so I can use them in one of my Guild War defensive teams. Next, I'm going to level up the Emperor's Children as they are released because so far they're looking really awesome. And I could keep going and going because I do really try to set up a range of different goals and then work towards them so the game never feels like it's out of my control. Overall, for me, this patch is not about moving the goalposts because they were already so far away. Instead, it's about changing the prioritization of who I'm going to be leveling, as well as adding new content with the different systems like I talked about in the last video. As we've seen from the released Relic System equipment today, it's going to bring a whole brand new level of tactical finesse to the game that I can't wait to play around with. But with all that said, and a little more time to absorb the update, how are you feeling about it now? Do you still think it's completely negative? Or are you starting to feel like maybe you will just wait and see when it actually gets released? I'd love to hear your thoughts on what I've said about it as well, and whether that helps or not. Let me know in the comments below, and I'll keep trying to address your feedback as much as I can in the coming weeks when we dive into everything around this patch. Your feedback makes these videos so much better, and I just can't thank you enough for that.